Good morning, welcome to Morning Outlook. This is Kim speaking on Monday the 5th of March. So looking at the Eurodollar first, and well, it did pitch up. Friday continued the move up there. It's put in a bullish pivot swing on the daily basis here, but this morning it triggered that sort of bullishness, but I'll say this morning, late yesterday actually, running into this early hours, pushed up a little bit there. Triggered the bullish side. However, it's subsequently just rolled over a little bit here. In fact, it's rolled over not just a little bit relatively, it's rolled over almost a good day's worth. Now, just looking at the market coming down to the 60-minute, you can see it at the moment it's sitting down at 60.50. Well, I'm still sort of on the bigger picture, I'm still erring a little bit towards the bearish side in terms of what's going on here. Yes, we had a couple of days in terms of, and finally ended up on the bounce last week. Where we're going, well, I'll talk about that more later. But for this morning's trading, it's not clear with any of the pairs for me at the moment in terms of exactly what's going on here. But I'm still erring towards the sell side, but I almost would prefer to see it below the 60.50 to be selling. It hasn't actually caught its daily S1 yet. It may come back for that later, so I will watch for it. I may look to get a small short offer into the retrace after 8 o'clock. I need to watch that carefully, see if there's any opportunities there. But as I say, it'll be a small position because on the intermediate time frame, perhaps it's pushed up. I'm just come down to a 15-minute chart and seeing what's happening on this 15-minute chart. Well, as we know, there's support below us. Maybe, and looking at the sort of price action that we saw, maybe it will roll over a little bit more, but I just need to watch it a little bit this morning. Now, if buying comes in, well, I could be a buyer if it starts breaking the sort of rather steep triangle. It's not a triangle at all, it's a trend line. Starts with a T though. If it starts breaking this trend line, maybe I could be looking at buying. I just need a setup if it passes that area. Okay, that's the euro. The pound, we've got PMI services coming out this morning on the pound. That often creates a bit of volatility. It's a key number. Saw the figures coming out last week. They weren't great, but they weren't bad. So didn't see a lot of action on the PMI figures from that perspective. But the pound is still looking iffy. The Brexit shadow or cloud, should I say, is still sitting over the pound. I mean, the chop towards the end of last week there, it's just hardly going anywhere, which is pretty much spelt out on this hourly. Now, I've drawn it and then lost it, but there was a trend line that I've just put back on here across the lows from last Friday into last Friday, which is broken a little bit this morning. Again, it's like the euro, it's come down to its 50 MA. It's really, well, the thing is, if it does break this sort of upper trend line, there's a trend line across the highs there. If it starts breaking that, well, yes, it could run up to the R1. This hasn't come even down to its S1 yet, but could push up. It's still got an untouched weekly pivot, so there is the potential, depending on how things run. I just really don't like how price reacted to those highs last week. Now, even through the Asian session here, when it got near that sort of level, just over 138, there was selling coming in. Now that may disappear as we go through. Has got a slightly, well, arguably a higher low sitting in there, but it's just consolidated at the moment, and at some point it will go. Maybe we'll have to wait for it to show its hand a little bit more, and probably after 9:30 might make sense. Dollar yen. Dollar yen, well, it's continued to strengthen the yen against the dollar here. It's pushed down some more. It sort of had a little gap down almost. It tried to fill the gap. It wasn't far off of filling its gap. Still has the weekly pivot above, but it's as a potential target, and the monthly pivot, I should say, as well. Both sitting above as targets. We'll see how that goes. At the moment, to me, it looks like on the sell side, but not from here is the answer. So again, I'd have to be a bit patient, but it does look like it could continue down to the downside there. There seems to be money going in for safety reasons into yen maybe. Aussie dollar has sold off a little bit this morning. It's not major sell-off, but it's sold off again this morning. It's not really, again, it's a consolidation that we're seeing through these markets, and it's showing through the different time frames here, and it's very similar to the pound in terms of the sort of price action. It may be a little bit more choppy on Thursday there. Friday didn't really do too much at all. And today, well, it's not going to be doing too much. Now, there is key news. I think there's a base rate tomorrow on the Aussie dollar. I haven't got the full calendar in front of me at the moment, but I think that may just stifle the Aussie a little bit here. Today, there is no divergence on the hourly. It's still, to me, erring to the downside. It's got some downside risk in terms of ore and oil prices and things like this. So maybe it could just continue in that role. However, I don't want to be in something against a major announcement when there's a major announcement coming up tomorrow. And the Canadian dollar is just, to me, it's just too flat to be doing anything with either. It's actually on a daily basis, it looks a lot better than it does on an intraday basis. When you start coming down some of the intraday bars, it's a lot flatter, but it certainly still looks like it's got upside on the dailies here. Sorry, I'll come back to the dailies. Still looks like it's got some potential. It's around those key previous highs. It's not far from them. We had reaction 2 or 3 times across them previously. Is it this time going to push on upwards? And it is, as I'll talk about later on in the weekly review, it is, as I say, at a key point there, so it could well continue in that mode. But Friday very choppy, and some of these days have been very indecisive. Last week, as we were running through, it was a bit easier some days than others. But Thursday chopped. We did across, I guess, most of the markets there, and Friday's not been particularly clear. At the moment, though, it does look like, as I say, the bullish side is the lead side. Okay, the other thing, at 3 p.m. this afternoon in terms of news, we've got the US non-manufacturing data, so that's out at 3 p.m. So that's it for today. Have a great one. Bye for now.